Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Red Path. My name is Brian, and I'm joined here with Josie. And today it is a tier list kind of day. Josie, how you doing?
I'm doing good. It's finally almost time for 11th edition. We're gonna have basically everything out by the time this video comes out, and I'm genuinely really hype about it. I can't wait.
Yeah, no, I'd say I've gotten like 2 dozen games of 11th under my belt now. It's been a little slow on the content train from us for a little bit, but that is okay, guys. We have plenty planned and coming. It takes a while for us to actually kind of get a grasp of it. Man, this edition is very different from 10th. I'll just say that. Not bad. I'm having a lot of fun. I think within the context of like broad changes, it's great. I actually like the mechanical level changes of 11th. They've really cleaned up a lot of it. But that's not why you guys are here. Josie and I are going to be bringing you guys today our thoughts and opinions on the various detachment combinations for various detachments that we have. I think there's about 12 different detachment combos that you can have right now within the World Leaders Codex. Some of them are going to be fantastic options, right? We have a few ideas in mind for where we're brewing for even our own WTC teams, where we're looking at potential viable builds for World Leaders. And some of these options, maybe we go back in the kitchen, cook a little bit harder, and honestly, could get better with like a second wave of releases or something, right? And the nice thing about the detachment system that they have set up is it's almost always going to encourage uh, creative build diversity, and it's almost always open to new units getting dropped, right? Where if another style of 8-bound keyword unit gets dropped, Possessed Slaughterbrand gets better, and that could take that disposition and run with it, right? And suddenly that detachment combo could rocket to the top, right? So I don't expect these to stay static at all, especially as I expect certain dispositions to get nerfed too, right? They could go after specific dispositions. Points could affect things, new unit drops could affect things, primary scoring could change, right? All of this stuff could move all of these around. So by no means what we say today will be our locked in opinions for 11th, because that's also what this is just speculation of what we think the best detachment combos will be right out the gate. Josie, how are you feeling for our detachment combos?
I think It's gonna be interesting. I feel like when they brought out our 1 pointers, our sort of special little detachments, they've worked quite hard to prevent you from getting too much synergy with them. So it won't be that we're talking too much about this combo is really well because you've got this strat combined with this ability from another detachment. But all the same, I think they've picked a few sort of styles of unit that are a bit underloved, and they've given them some love. So, and I think there's a lot to be said for adding some of them into almost anything that we can build.
Yeah, I 100% agree. And I think they've achieved their goal before we get into this of making broadly more viable ways to play World Leaders, which previously there was kind of just one, right? Khorne Demonkin and Gortrak were contenders for second place fighting amongst each other, but Warband was probably head and shoulders the best. I think that gap has completely shrunk, and we will get into kind of our thoughts and opinions on why. So, without further ado, Josie, let's just kick this off.
Absolutely. I would like to start off actually making an argument for what is likely to be possibly the worst one. I think I'm going to make an argument right now for Possessed Slaughterband combined with the Terminators detachment that we've got access to. I think I'm gonna argue very much for this being an explain yourself, because Possessed Slaughterband, what it encourages you to do is build a list which is almost entirely composed of small to medium-sized units of tough elite infantry that go out and kill things well. And what the Terminator detachment does is it lets you build a set of small units of elite infantry that kill stuff reasonably well. And usually, sadly for Terminators, 8-bound still do it better, especially with the support they get from Slaughterband. I think it's possibly the only combo where I genuinely don't see a reason to take it. There's very little argument for taking Terminators with an 8 pound detachment. They don't help the list in any real way. It's it can be fun still. Terminators have a bit of shooting, and a bit of shooting is nice, but we've got missiles, we've got plenty of guns. They're just on our 8 pounds arms.
Yeah, I think we certainly had that problem throughout the majority of 10th edition where in any situation you'd want to be deep striking a 5-man or a 10-man Terminator squad. The 3-man or 6-man Exalted 8-bound squad was almost always the better consideration. Obviously, with the Slaughterbound attached, we don't have this could change if we had a Terminator character as part of that equation. But
Absolutely.
at the same time, even with the Terminator character, because like usually the strongest reasons to play the various attachments we have tend to be the enhancements and stratagem combos with those characters and those enhancements. Possessed Slaughterband offers nothing to Terminators. It is, I would call, a parasitically designed detachment where it has 2 datasheets to run with, I guess 3 datasheets to run with, and that is it. And all of the strats will key off of that. Until that changes, I don't really see, like, the Terminators honestly would probably derail you into making a ironically worse list than what already existed. There's a chance that allying in Terminators will just you'll make the worst attachment world leaders have even worse.
Yeah.
And Possessed Slaughterman does have access to Purge the Foe, which you'll hear us talk about a lot. Is going to be it is very good. It is probably our best primary out the gate. So the Terminator detachment really isn't helping Possessed Slaughterman that much either, bringing in what I would argue is probably Disruption's not too bad actually for us. It's definitely not where I want to be with slow-moving Terminators that are expensive, bulky, and their action economy is definitely not going to be that good. In addition to very expensive 8-bound units that don't really want to be doing actions either. We definitely want to be looking at Purge. But I do agree with Josie. I think this one is probably going to be our worst one out the gate.
Yeah. Speaking of Purge the Foe, we have a couple of other detachments that have Purge the Foe, which is, yeah, as you say, probably our favourite one of the dispositions for World Eaters. It encourages you to kill your opponent, which is what we want to be doing. So, for our baseline, tell me about Warband.
Berserker Warband, right? Everybody was kind of coming into this edition, and I honestly think if you are looking for a nice way to start the edition and kind of get a feel for yourself and not really have to like if you have a tournament coming up, right? And you are scared of trying something new and not performing the best way, I would say just pull out All Reliable, give it a couple shots before you move on to something else crazy, right? Berserker Warband is still good.
Yes.
It ended up being 3 DP, like everyone knew it was going to be, except for the copers out there. That's fine. I'm sorry, guys. But if they made Berserker Warband 2 DP, there'd be no point to doing this video. It would be Warband plus which of the three 1 DPs is the best, and we'd move on, and you'd never open your codex again, right? So it's 3 DP. It does have access to, in my opinion, our strongest primary, Purge the Foe, and it still is just Berserker Warband. It has the best suite of strats out of all of the detachments. Is adding 3 strats for Terminators going to like change that? Like not really. Like it you can still play Terminators in Warband and it will still feel good. You can still play Demon Engines in Warband and it will still feel good, right? Warband is just Warband. It's cut and dry. It's vanilla. It's good. Sticky on Death in 11th edition is huge. It is, I mean, we have another video coming out this week. I don't know if it'll be before or after this one, talking about our insights and breakdowns of like the cores of 11th edition. But this is a shooty edition. It is shootier than 10th edition was. There's some caveats to that, and there's ways that we can get around that as a melee army. But broadly speaking, having access to Sticky on Death is huge, especially for Purge the Foe, which cares about hold one, hold more, right? Being able to occupy the middle of the table, right? That's a big deal. -1 damage helps us survive a little bit in the middle of the table. Can't go wrong with that. And Berserker Warband remains the only World Eater detachment in an army that is the primo melee army that has access to advance and charge on a stratagem. Granted, you could say that Goretrack has advance and charge if you squint, but it does. But like you got to squint for it. Um, but it has access to advance and charge, which conveniently we had the worst advance and charge in the game in Berserker Warband because it happened in the movement phase before you saw the die roll. Okay. Almost every other advance and charge in the game is in the charge phase. So when you fail that charge after you advance and charge, you just kind of just got to stare at it real sad like. Now that we have the non-bow, which ended up being a nice thing, is you can CP reroll your failed charge. I don't know. Look at the bright side. Berserker Warband is going to very obviously be Khorne's finest right out the gate, in my opinion. You can't go wrong with it. It'll always be there. I'm secretly hoping that it gets usurped eventually, but for now, you just can't. It has speed, it has durability, it has primary play in the middle of the table. It has everything you could possibly want. Is one of these other detachment combos going to replace it? Maybe. Maybe Josie and I can talk about it and we can be convinced. Maybe on a later date you could convince me, but as of right now, if you're going to a tournament next week and you don't know what to submit and you're going to panic and you don't have enough time to read everything, just submit Warband.
Yeah, I can't argue with that at all. Warband is still amazing. I think possibly we will. Maybe, I mean, if we did this through 10th edition, Warband would have always been on its own at the top. I think it has been whenever we've done a Tierlist, on its own at the top of the pile. I think we're certainly a lot closer this time around to putting something else up in Khorne's finest. Whether we get there or not, we'll see down the video, but I think we're getting there.
I agree.
Things that could get there. I mean, realistically, it's likely to be one of the Gore track lists, and let's start with possibly the weaker of the two. It's the Terminators again, unfortunately. Terminators just are what they are. So Gore track combined with Terminators. There is a list there. There are a couple of nice combinations that you can do. Gore track, you're still very often looking at taking a Land Raider. Rhinos tend to feel a little bit, well, very squishy at times in this edition. Land Raiders definitely help with that durability problem that we have with our transports. And 5-man Terminators coming out of Land Raider with Lance, with that access to +1 attack as well from the Terminator detachment, they can hit pretty hard. It's not too shabby at all. That said, Terminators are still expensive. As soon as you start taking Terminators, you are going to start making sacrifices in your list, whether that is taking fewer Berserkers, who are also very good in Gore track, or taking less of the sort of shooting support that you'll often see in a Gore track list. I think this neither improves or worsens a Gore track list. Gore track is helped in this regard by needing a detachment combo. Gore track's disposition is taking hold, which is, spoiler warning, not very good. It's okay.
Yeah, taking hold relies on doing exactly that, taking and holding, which world leaders are not famous for their durability, and uh, Warband having access to Sticky on Death is our best tool and was our best tool for being able to hold objectives in the middle of the table. Goretrack never really wanted to do that, and encouraging you to put your big, expensive units, like we're talking Terminators and Land Raiders, that gets pricey fast. And if you're going to be putting that in the middle of the table, it's going to encourage your opponent to come jam you. You're going to die, and it's going to feel bad while you're also not holding objectives at the same time.
Absolutely.
So,
Butchers opens up the option of taking Disruption, which is,
yes,
I think, a lot more suited to Goretrack as
yes.
a whole. You don't necessarily need to be on the objective. If what you do every turn is clear your opponent from it and jump back into your meta box, make your opponent come to you for 4 turns, and they won't have stuff left at the end of it.
Yep.
Goretrack is also very good at, possibly even better than Warband now, at just pushing somebody in. It's got ways to be faster than Berserker Warband, or certainly more reliably fast than Warband, in multiple different places. And that enables you to do some really aggressive things that don't suit taking hold, but do suit disruption right down to the ground.
Yep. And
So,
I think this is also a concept we have to talk about is just because you are taking the disposition doesn't mean you have to play the models that the
you
disposition
could run
supports.
0 Terminators and
If
just take
you
disruption.
really, if you just wanted to play Goretrack and take disruption, this is how you do it, right? There will be a very distinctive hierarchy of, especially for singles, of what primaries you want to be on. Now, do we know what that is out the gate? We kind of have vibes. That's going to take a lot of play testing. That's one of those things where Josie and I can give you an idea of where we are thinking. Like, I can tell you right now that Take and Hold is not going to be our favorite. Tell you right now that Purge the Foe will be our favorite, right? Anything in between those two, I could probably give you a guess. They'd slide around a little bit, but it'll be very common to see, like, if we see that Gortrak is still just as strong, viable as potentially Warband with a better primary, right? You could have the argument for sliding in either Vessels of Wrath or Disruption or Purge, Butchers of Khorne just for the primary, right? Now, I don't expect that to be the case for the other one, but for the Terminator one, I could see you saying, I'm not going to play any Terminators, or I'll play one 5-man, but still have access to a better primary than what uh, Gortrak is offering,
Yeah, I
which
agree.
is
I think
one.
just because of that primary improvement, I think this sits in this could work. I think this is more than fun. I think you definitely could. I mean, Go Track in general is still a good detachment, which means at worst, it's going to be this could work for me. It's never going to be a bad build.
I would probably agree. I wouldn't go higher. I don't.
Yeah,
I think there are clearly better combinations, but I do think that this is one that if you loved your Terminators and you love the idea of them coming out of a Land Raider, it won't be a non-bow. It will actually work pretty smoothly, and it has the tools, and it meshes well, even if the execution isn't as good as some other detachments can do. Unlike the Possessed and Terminators, where it's just fighting itself the entire time.
absolutely. What else have we got? We've got, let's do one of the KDK ones, because KDK is a very interesting detachment. It has been for the whole of 10th edition. It unfortunately has reconnaissance as its disposition, which is well, probably not the worst, but certainly a very not great disposition. But it's 2 DP and it has access to 3 other ones from its one pointers.
Yeah,
So, yeah,
and Demonkin actually is really nicely situated out of all of the main viable World Leader detachments already because it could actually be justified that any of the 1 DPs have a good build with it, right? I could say that Demon Indians have a good build with it, Terminators, or even Vessels, right? Now, Vessels probably less so, but we'll go ahead and rip Band-Aid off. Let's talk about Demonators, Josie. Demonators was the concept right out the gate that James and I were most excited for because it's just such a cool concept and it's a fun word to say, Demonators. Uh, the idea of being able to, you can't multi-strat in 11th edition. One of the big changes is that you can't strat twice on one unit. Khorne Demonkin gets around that because a lot of the strats key off of the unit to the right of the unit that's actually getting the buff. You say, hey, that Khorne Demon over there is going to yell at those Terminators over there to have twin linked, right? And you can go, oh, cool. Now I'm going to also give these Terminators +1 attack. And you can, I think, probably the highest damage output unit in our codex is in this specific combo of Demonators, where you just go, yeah, this unit has +1 attack, +1 to hit, +1 like twin linked lance, like it just the damage just goes through the roof on a hyper durable unit, which is something that World Leaders don't have really access to. So being able to jam two 20-man Terminator bricks up the middle of the table. I know James and I were talking that one 5-man unit with the +1 OC buff, so you have a 10-man or a 5-man unit of 10 OC just in the air. Huge emphasis in this edition, by the way, on rapid ingress and deep striking, being able to rapid a 5-man down onto an objective and say, yeah, I own this now, is great, especially for Purge the Foe, which tends to have hold more as a scoring option, or even just hold one. Your opponent will have an entire game plan around kicking you off primary, but it is actually really hard to space an objective out entirely to keep people from jumping on it without overextending, which we're going to go all over that in some tactics videos later on the next coming weeks about how you can exploit that because, I mean, fast gun good is going to be good, so we have to have a way to play around that. Uh, the Terminator detachment actually does vibe really well with what Demonkin is up to, right? And 10 Terminators coming down, even though they're hitting on 5s with their bolters, full rerolls to hit, is still going to get there and will allow you to drop 10 Bloodletters down. Usually in a position where if you're just, you will pick up trash screens, you'll pick up 5-man intercessors with Terminator shooting. Like it is still pretty consistent at doing that. And being able to immediately say, yep, and now there's Bloodletters there, which are now going to give me twin linked, right? This is a very like I was also personally very excited for this one because I'm a big Demon Prince stan too. And the issue with Demon Princes and KDK is there's one strat, I believe. It's like one or two strats the Demon Prince can actually discount, and one of them wasn't a good one. And Khorne Demonkin, so allying in Demonators gives them three more strats to be using, -1 damage and shooting. One, you can discount that. You can make an obnoxiously durable list, which world leaders didn't really have access to before, outside of just Terminator Span and Warband, which was kind of gimmicky. I would say that this is a little less gimmicky. I think where this gets held back, though, is unfortunately in its forced dispositions. Butchers of Khorne does give you disruption, and then you have reconnaissance. Reconnaissance, I would say, is one of our weaker of our dispositions. Recon cares a lot about you being in table quarters and doing actions. Now, I was ranting with Josie a little bit before this game, or this call, is that if you're taking Terminators, and we're talking Demonators, you're going to be taking 10 mans. And there's a chance that there's going to be a Demon Prince in there too. You're very quickly going to write a 1,000 point list with 3 units right out the gate. And then you're going to add Scarbrand, and you're going to be at 1,300 points. And that's 4 units, right? And it's going to be clunky, right? And you're not really going to want to have to focus on an action economy. I would see if there was something to hold this back, it would be from that point of view. Uh, Terminators, like I said, having access to cover, being -1 to hit, having access to -1 damage, all that stuff can make them obnoxiously durable. I actually do think that this could work. I do think that this is potentially, like, I could see this combo being a GT winning list. I think of the viable combos in my head, I would rank it towards the bottom, but it definitely has the coolest sounding name. Definitely better than what Josie has stated for Josie's favorite name, which we'll probably get to soon. But I am hyped for Demonators. I will be testing them in a couple games. There's another version of KDK I'm a little bit more excited for. But I do think this is probably top of this could work, or maybe bottom of top option. Probably top of this could work, in my opinion.
I think I put it top of this could work as well. I agree. It's got some things going for it, but it's definitely got some things holding it back. We have one more codex detachment that we haven't managed to talk about, and it's my own little favourite. It's the Cult of Blood. Cult of Blood gets priority assets, which is, for most World Eaters lists, not a disposition that we play terrifically well. We play it okay, but actually, Cult of Blood has a lot of units. It's the one detachment where we build a list that floods the board with a bunch of models and is very good at standing in places doing stuff. Because let's be honest, Jackals aren't very good at doing much more than standing in the right place and dying at the right time. Priority assets really encourages that. It is helped a lot, Cult of Blood, by the fact that the sort of the core of it, your 70 to 100 Jackals, your one Demon Prince, probably a unit of Goremongers becomes obligatory in 11th edition for this kind of list, is still going to be 7, 8, 900 points. You have the ability to then throw in a 1 DP detachment that can do anything, and you can jam a lot of points worth of your army into it. So if you want to play Terminators, you can run 20 or 30 Terminators, you can run Demon Engines, you can run just a boatload of random characters, and they will all get buffed, which is quite good. I'm a big fan of it. We also haven't talked about Brazen Engines yet, so let's do our Cult and Brazen Engines. Brazen Engines open up Purge the Foe, which, as we already said, is one of our best detachments. Kill stuff, good. And Brazen Engines is probably the most combo-y of the Cult of Blood options, purely because of the Khorne Lord of Skulls. Cult of Blood loves taking Lords of Skulls, and Lords of Skulls like being in Brazen Engines. They get extra buffs from that. They buff your Jackals, and then you can give them some really good combos yourself. Lords of Skulls are a Titanic option, which means they have access to plunging fire. So if you run them in Brazen Engines, combine that with your ignore hit mods, and all of a sudden, our Lord of Skulls that gets more shots than everyone else's Lords of Skulls also hits on 3s. And the shooting output is genuinely terrifying from that big guy. It's incredible output. I can genuinely see a list where you take 2 Lords of Skulls and feel not disappointed at all in a cult list specifically. And that's great. I think Cult is probably still never going to find itself above this could work. I'm just going to make that clear now. It's still not the best option we have, but you definitely can make a Cult list work. We talked about how KDK could easily win a GT or similar size thing. I'm not going to argue that Cult is going to win big GTs anytime soon, but they definitely will win events over the course of this edition, I think. And I think Cult plus Engines is probably our best option for Cult. So I'm definitely going to argue for it being in this could work. But yeah, I think Cult is a great way to play the game at the minute. You give 40, 60 Jackals a 4-pin button, -1 to hit from cover, 5 up feel no pain, and hidden because you're never going to shoot with them. They are genuinely going to be difficult to shift, and if you've got the right things behind them doing damage, it's going to surprise people. It's going to hurt them.
Yeah, and I would say that cultist style models benefit more so from the changes to cover
Yes.
than previously. Like you were pretty rarely getting saves on jackals and goremongers if people were activating into them at all, especially if they had just an ounce of AP. Like it just really didn't matter as a durability wise. But being -1 to hit is, I would probably take that over +1 to save specifically for cultist style models. Uh, there are two different combinations that we're going to talk about here. I mean, broadly cults as a whole, and then another combo that we're going to get to eventually, that their game plan from 10th just got better, right?
Yes.
And I guess specifically the Demon Engine version of Cult, and I would say even like we'll get to it eventually, but like the Vessels version of Cult just get better and enhanced from the addition of these 1 DPs. So, which is nice, right? That is exactly it's helping the internal balance of the army. So I would say that the engines version of this probably is one of like I mean the rules mesh also super well. Like we're talking the Khorne Lord of Skulls is what is handing out the buffs for Colts, and the Khorne Lord of Skulls is just getting more rules. Good. It's not fighting itself. That's the baseline category for me for if this could work, is if the detachment is not fighting itself to actually perform. So I do think this could work. I would probably put it ahead of Gore Track and Terminators.
I agree. Yeah. Yeah, I would agree. It's definitely not going to beat out KDK and Terminators, but it is better than the Gore Track version with Terminators built in.
Yep, I would be inclined to agree. Now, next up, we'll probably just stick around on the KDK end of the spectrum because it's a little fun to talk about it. I think next we'll do KDK and Vessels. Of the three different 1 DPs that can be combined with it, I do think that is potentially our weakest for KDK. Vessels of Wrath will be enhancing your World Leader characters, which, if you ever looked at a KDK list, there was like at most one, if at all.
And it's often Khorne.
Sometimes two, but like non-named, non-epic hero characters. Yes,
Yeah,
you'll see Khorne sneak his way into a KDK list pretty often because Twin Link Lance Khorne is insanely good. But like sometimes you'd see Blade Mo. Usually it'd be mutually exclusive with Khorne. And I think more often than not now you have an excuse to do Blade Foot Demon Prince. Should be sick. Damage 4 Demon Prince coming up with Twin Linked. And as I said, you have more reason to play other World Leader units so you can use your Demon Prince ability. But like I said, we're fighting ourselves now because now I'm encouraged to take Mo or a Slaughterbound so the Prince can actually use strats on them, Vessel strats, which isn't really what KDK wants to be doing. It wants units that are going to be meshing with it. Why are we fighting going against the grain here? You typically didn't like running Slaughterbounds and Mo's in KDK. They didn't really offer much. I think this is probably the least viable of the various Khorne Demonkin detachments. I also think it pretty hard locks you into what I would argue is uh, one of the worst disposition combos. Like you're going to be playing priority assets, you're going to have a low unit count, and you're going to be not that durable because Demonkin is probably the least durable alone as a detachment, right? You're just running around with a bunch of Bloodletters and Scarbrand. Bloodletters are not hard to kill. They have a 5-up invuln. I'd even argue Cult of Blood is more durable
oh, 100%.
by a
100%.
mile. So I would say this is one that you would play for fun if you just have a lot of lore around your Demon Prince and you just want him to have, I don't know, some plot armor. Go for it, right? But as a detachment combo, I think this is the first play it for fun. I really think this is probably the weakest KDK combo,
Oh, yeah,
and I there's a couple other dispos I'd rather play over priority assets.
absolutely. Vessels is great when you have good units alongside the carriages that you're taking.
Yeah.
realistically. You want those units. Mostly it's going to be Berserkers, because mostly it's units that go with Berserkers. If your Berserkers are not getting really anything from a detachment that you're taking them in, Vessels is a lot to spend on just the
Yeah,
characters.
and you're looking at like you're going to almost be it's actually a struggle when doing KDK list writing to stay under the 1,000 point Khorne demon threshold. So that means you only have 1,000 points of war leaders that you're talking about, right? And after you add in the two jackal squads in the back that are kind of mandatory, your one demon prince, right? You have like 500 points, and fitting in name or non-epic hero world leader characters in that 500 points will just consume all your list writing. And now you've written yourself into a hole where you have Vessels of Wrath for one, maybe two data sheets.
Yeah, it's difficult. We're halfway there though. That is 6 of them done. One of my favourites, let's do actually my favourite, are other Gortrak option. Because Gortrak doesn't get any access to Brazen Engines, it only has 2 combos that are available for it, which means we are now looking at combining Gortrak with Vessels of Wrath. This is my favourite. It is Vortrak, and it will always be Vortrak. You can't stop me. I'm going to win this. Gortrak, we've already said, plays sort of be in places, be annoying quite well. Vessels plays priority assets, which I think is a good detachment for a Gortrak list to play. You have a lot of cheap units, generally your transports, but often also the things inside transports. You're still taking, for example, a Scout Mo, who's going to enjoy wandering up the board and being annoying. So it is quite good with that. And Gortrak lists, just in general, they have a bunch of characters, and all of those characters like getting cleave or +1 AP. There is a little bit of an ombo with this, because you're still probably going to take Khorne in a Gortrak list. The Khorne with Lance is still worth it, even without any Vessels buffs at all. So you're limited on the number of non-named characters that you can take, but this is the other option that we talked about, where you're just taking the list that you took in 10th edition and playing it better.
Yeah.
You have
It,
two
this
Master
is
Executions, you have a Slaughterbound, you can have another Slaughterbound or some other characters in your list. They're all just going to hit harder than they did before.
yeah, and as I was saying earlier with Warband, if you're confused what to play and you didn't want to know what you really wanted to do for your first tournament, you could just whip out and write up a new Warband list and you really can't go wrong with it. If you are also confused and scared of what to play in 11th edition and you have a Gortrak list in your phone that has the green check mark next to it, just take it with Vessels and it is strictly better. You don't even have to think about what Vessels adds. Open up your phone in the middle of the tournament and be like, oh, I can use this strat now, right? That is exactly what it's going to feel like. Vessels and Gortrak feel like they mesh the best of the detachment combos. Like they may not be, in my opinion, may not be the best way to play 11th, but at least it is like the most synergistic of the detachment combos. And it will feel the best. It feels like you are playing one full detachment with 9 strats that were written in mind for this one detachment, right? You don't have to change your list writing at all. You're still going to be taking Khorne, as Josie said. You're still going to have your Scout Mo. You're still maybe you're more encouraged. This is why we were talking about like the Terminator combo isn't really as favorable with this, because if you're going to be sticking something in a Land Raider, make it a Slaughterbound, which has Vessels access, actual rule support. You're not fighting yourself on that. You get everything that was offered, but just a little bit better. Uh, I actually think pretty highly of this combo. I think that if there's something that is going like Gortrek was already flirting, like it was kind of like that annoying little brother to Berserker Warband throughout the 10th edition. Like it would occasionally pop up when a GT, right? And we desperately wanted it to be a little bit more viable than Warband, and I think this is a step in the right direction for that. And I think well, Gortrek also has functionally 2 advance and charge strats. This is why I squinted and said like kind of, right? You have the disembark after you move a transport and charge, which is advance and charge in a trench coat, and then you have the disembark 6, which is just rolling bad on an advance and charge and charging. So you could have a little bit of a go turn with it. I think pretty highly of it. I
Absolutely.
don't. No,
Our late 10th builds for Gortrak were running Defilers. I think you are probably going to look at taking your Defiler out of a Vessels list and going back to the sort of similar style that you were running beforehand. But I think with Vessels improving it, it comes out better anyway. And it likes a lot of the boards for 11th edition. As you get used to playing it, players, you will see that a lot of the maps just have a pocket of space that feels almost designed to fit a Rhino into. It's almost perfect. This is the rhino hole. This is where it sits, and from here, I will send berserkers out 15 inches and charge you.
And then this rhino's going to run off in the corner, do a secondary, and get replaced by another rhino.
Absolutely.
So,
The one number that you have to be aware of, Vessels players, the strat in the fight phase to buff your character up with plus attacks and strength. Do never use it if you're planning on getting back into your transport. It's probably not a great strat anyway.
yeah, just
But
don't use that strat. That strat's
just
just bad.
don't use it. Except that maybe you won't kill the enemy unit. You're still better off jumping back into the transport and leaving a couple of models alive than you are with making sure you kill that thing 99% of the time.
Yep.
But apart from that, it's great.
I would be very cautious about throwing this up in Khorne's Finest. It will take a lot to unseat Berserker Warband, but I do think this is one of the contenders to do it. So I
I
would say,
think I agree. It's not proven itself yet. I think if we do this again in a few months' time after the meta's settled, there is a real world where it might fit into Khorne's Finest. But it's the closest we've come to a contender, I think. I mean, for the entirety of 10th edition going into 11th.
yep, and like this isn't even theoretical. As I said, Gortrak was kind of flirting with being Berserker Warband's little brother, and it just got random, strictly better buffs to it.
Yes.
Like it just has to. Berserker Warband is staying a little stagnant with where it's at right now, and the rest of the codex is coming up. Did it come up enough to actually unseat Berserker Warband? Maybe. My opinion, probably not. But will it be good enough to be taking down GTs frequently now? I do think this combo will be a common combo to see winning GTs.
Yeah.
Not more common, but I do think it will be common.
Yeah, if we look at the play rates of detachments across the whole of 10th edition, I think it would be safe to say that Berserker Warband has been 96% plus played by World Eaters players. I think what we're going to see is a significant drop in that. Hopefully, this is my hand on heart hope, we drop below 90% Berserker Warband player base. That would be nice to see.
That would be nice to see, but you know what? We'll get there when we get there, guys. Because I will
Absolutely.
definitely be pushing for that out the gate. But let's talk about another one that makes me sad, Josie. Let's talk about are you gonna do Possessed plus Engines? Let's do Possessed plus
Okay.
Engines.
Yeah, Possess plus Engines. Possessed, we've already said, struggles a bit. It builds an expensive list, is Possessed's problem. By the time you've put in the Demon Prince that's almost obligatory, and all of the 8-bound and their leaders that you need, you really have very few points to play with. The one shining light for this is that when I've built a Possessed list previously, I've always put a Land Raider in that list. I think it's a big help to protect your boys. And in Brazen Engines, you can pay to make a Land Raider a demon. And at that point, it gets access to all the stuff from Brazen Engines, which it's nice. It's helpful. There is a small combo there. Possessed also always kind of enjoyed having a little bit of shooting support if you could fit it into the list. Forge Fiend or two helped an awful lot for supporting your very squishy boys. That said, you are building a very expensive list with just Possessed Slaughterband, and the more stuff you take out of it, the easier it is for you to think, oh, I'll just run 3-mans all across the board, and I'm sure they'll be fine. And then you will routinely lose your entire 3-man unit of 8-bound or Exalted to Overwatch over and over again and get really sad. Possessed likes having a couple of 6-mans, or even just one or two 6-mans in a Possessed list, but you are going to be really short on points for your demon engines. Can it work with just taking out some of your bound and putting some Mauler Fiends with Cleave 2 in? Absolutely it could. But that's more just because Mauler Fiends and demon engines in the demon engines attachment are good, rather than what it does for a Possessed list.
Yeah, I would say that the only way that you can play the list without actively fighting itself, which I said is my criteria for seeing if a detachment combo actually works, is exactly what Josie said. You're just upgrading the Land Raider you already have. I don't think paying a CP to ignore hit mods on a Land Raider is enough to make me suddenly think Possessed Slaughter is any good. It is far and away the worst World Eater detachment. Sorry, guys. I really want 8-bound spam to be good. It was good in Index. It's not good now. I also feel like when we get into like our key insights for 11th edition, right? There's further distance between you and your opponent and more ground across. Possessed Slaughter is the slowest of the detachments that
Yes.
I would say are viable. It just doesn't play the game super well. and I don't think Brazen Engines helps that at all. It also is the non-bow of Purge plus Purge. So I mean, Purge is probably where you want to be anyways, but it's not like you're getting anything new from
Yeah,
adding.
and at
You're
that
not.
point, you're directly competing with Berserker Warband. Like,
Yeah, your Land Raider
to
is
want
a
to play
little bit
Purge,
better.
yeah, but to want to play Purge, you have to be able to say competitively, if you're running it, for a major tournament, you want to take the best list you can. You have to look at your list and honestly say to yourself, "This does better than Berserker Warband," and I cannot in any way argue that Possessed
Yeah,
plus Brazen Engines does that.
yeah, and the other thing too, like, uh, not only is it slower, it is incredibly lethal. No one's doubting the fact that the crit 5 Slaughterbound, once he gets his hands on you, is going to put you through a wall. But there is such thing as excessive lethality as well. Right? The other detachments are plenty lethal. I just don't feel like we're adding enough to it to make it really function. I would probably put this above possessed Terminators, but like I'm not gonna die on that hill. I think its game plan does get objectively better. The other thing is like your CP economy in Possessed Slaughterband has always been the most scuffed. Like there's a bunch of 2 CP strats that you need to be using, and spending CP on buffing your demon engines just means that your 8 bound are just getting held back. I don't think Terminators really add much to Possessed Slaughterband. I do think uh, I do think Brazen Engines does add a little bit, but like I'm talking a little bit to the detachment.
Yeah, I think this is going to be high up in Explain Yourself. I think it is higher than Possessed and Terminators purely because you can build a genuine meme list out of this. You take a couple of Land Raiders, you deck them out with 8 bound, you make your Land Raiders demons, and you walk them through walls on demand. That is a list which I would say you could say I'm playing this for fun, but I'm gonna make you explain what the heck you're doing with this list before I accept it, and that means it's going into Explain Yourself.
I'm gonna tell you, you could have more fun doing something else. Like objectively, there's more fun things to be doing.
Yeah, this is an Explain Yourself list.
All right, Josie, we still have 2 cults in here. You want to take one?
Yeah, let's. I actually would like to talk about Cult and Terminators because I think it's not going to be as good probably as Cult with Demon Agents, but I think there is a real world where you take Cult and Terminators. Previously, when I built a cult list, I've done very well and enjoyed myself a lot, taking a lot of 8 bound alongside them, a lot of Exalted 8 bound, to do a lot of the work that Jackals can't do. I think Terminators are very good at that clear up work that Jackals struggle to do. One thing that you'll find yourself an awful lot as a cult player is with opponents' units that are just not dead. Jackals can hit pretty hard. You can still give them full hit rerolls, lethal, sustained, all that business. They can hit hard, but they will very often not kill entire units. And Terminators are very, very good at that sort of clear up work in the midboard once the Jackals have expended themselves. And it opens up a couple of different play options where you can get very aggressive with the Terminators and go for your deep strike charges, or you could get very aggressive with Jackals into the right opponent, force them out, make your opponent deal with them, and guarantee that when your Terminators come in, they're going to be dropping in, they're going to have Jackals in front of them, they're going to shoot screens, they're going to charge stuff behind them, and actually they're going to be very good at finishing a game out. And it's, as I already said, Jackals, the cult lists are cheap. So you're going to feel yourself taking 30 Terminators and not stressing about points costs, really. You might end up dropping 10 of your Jackals to make 30 Terminators fit, but you're going to be pretty happy about that. You are going to have a Demon Prince or 2 in that list already. So you've got access to that -1 damage strat from Terminators, you've got access to the damage buffs, and it does work quite well. The problem is that it is too slow archetypes. Jackals are not fast. Terminators are also not fast outside of the turn where they drop in and go for a deep strike charge. Once you've committed a Cult and Terminators army, it's very difficult to turn that thing around and focus on another quarter. If your opponent is very good at getting around the board, and a lot of the disposition matchups in this game now are focused around getting around the board, being in strange, odd corners, you're going to struggle to dig people out of them with Cult and Terminators. I think it plays its own game very well, quite well, but it struggles to stop an opponent from playing that game, which has always been the issue with Cult, and it doesn't help that problem at all going into an edition where it's possibly more important than ever to stop your opponent from doing their thing.
Yeah, and also looking at the two objectives that you, or the two primaries you have access to, disruption, you're probably not gonna want to be taking this one. Like Josie said, this is two of the slower detachments we have. Getting into your opponent's face and actually managing to basically occupy their DZ. These are not the detachments that are best for it, right? Gortrak and Warband are way faster. Even Demonkin has a little bit of hidden speed to it. And then the other one, priority assets, probably where you're going to be. That's probably the one you'd go with if you're going to be playing. I do think that of the various 1 DP combos that you can have with Colt, this is the one that probably skews your build in a different direction from what you've already been doing.
Mm.
And you're kind of competing with what Colt, like you're competing with 10th edition Colt, and you're trying to justify that this is better than the game plan you were already on, which I think already Colt had a pretty solid game plan. So trying to like break from the grain on that one, I don't know if maybe it'll be good. I don't know if it'll be better.
Yeah,
Right.
and it definitely can be good. You've got that. I mean, you can, for 2 turns at least, have an entire army of 4 pin. And there
Yep.
is always something to be said for pseudo custodies with damage from the Terminators. Like there is something there, and you will find yourself winning games because you've rolled 75% of your 4-ups. That's always the way that those kind of armies go, and it's always the way that this army can go.
Call that the Folger method.
Yep.
But I would probably put this at the top of playlists for fun.
Yeah, I think it's. I don't think it's going to work in the sense that it's going to win major events, but I think it can be a very fun way to play the game. Dropping 30 Terminators on somebody, I think is never not fun
Yeah.
if you can fit it into a list.
Okay, let's I know we've been bashing Possessed quite a bit, but Possessed does have an objectively correct detachment, if you were to ask me. If you are obsessed with playing your 8 pound, I do think if you're desperately trying to make this detachment work and you don't want to put effort into rewriting the list completely around hard things that are going against the grain, Possessed plus Vessels is just, they're just kind of meant for each other. Even if it is not going to be the most competitive way to play World Eaters, if you want to play 8 bound spam, I would completely recommend that you play Possessed plus Vessels. Not only do you have access to Purge the Foe, which is something that rewards a low unit count, high killy army, that has a lot of deep striking threats, like Possessed is going to be doing. There's tons of 8 bound that's going to be dropping down. You're likely going to have a Land Raider that you're going to be jamming up the table, but you're almost certainly going to have 3 Slaughter Bounds in this list, right? And you may even have a Demon Prince walking up the table. It might actually be the highest list of non-epic hero count, like between all of the different combinations,
Yeah,
right? This
that
might be where you get,
my list
yeah,
previously for Vessels had the 3 Slaughterbounds, and I also had Mr. Invocatus in there as well. And I would just swap him out for Lord of Juggernaut in a Vessels list and have fun with
yep,
that.
yep, and yep, like 3 to 4, maybe more non-epic heroes. All of your Slaughter Bounds just got even killier, like, and that matters a lot too, right? The biggest problem that Possessed Slaughterbound used to have is it would run out of steam very quickly because 8 bound are not durable. Now, with models being able to revive with the Slaughterbound still there, that is a slight buff to the Slaughterbound. Maybe you'll see more 8 bound returning to the table. I wouldn't put too much stock in that. It is still not a very good ability, but it is an ability that will be more relevant nonetheless. That and having access to the Cleaver extra AP does make it so when you get down to Slaughterbound plus 1 8 bound, that unit still has a bunch of punch to it. Uh, it is just helping keep that momentum going. There is Vessels has access to a Feel No Pain strat, I believe, to Mortal Wounds, which is really good for 8 bound.
Absolutely.
That are just getting like that. Just when Magnus peaks you and goes Doom Bolt, and you just lost to 8 bound, you're like, ah, right? Like that is one of the worst feelings in the world. So being able to give a little bit of extra durability there, um, I really don't. I wouldn't say that this is going to be a high tier competitive way to play the army, but I definitely do think this is in the category of this could work. I would probably even put it above Gortrak plus Terminators. If I'm being honest, it's like above that or below it. It's like I won't die on that hill. I do think this is a list that you could take to an RTT and win an RTT, or go 4-1 at AGT with this. 5-0, I'd be shocked, but I do think that you can go positive with this build and this archetype pretty easily.
I agree, and I think this is one of the odd ones where, like, we talk a lot about what the 1 point detachments can do for the 2 points, because your 2 points are your main builds that you're taking. Actually, Possessed does an awful lot for vessels. Weirdly, it's almost the other way around. Possessed supports what Vessels wants to do an awful lot. It wants to put characters into stuff, so that's good for Vessels. And it also has probably the one of the better Battle Shock strats in the game. Which I mean, that Battle Shock is more important now than it was before. And when things are battle shocked, the vessel's forcing desperate escape strat does that at a -1. So you can kill half of a unit on average of one wound models after you've tagged into them in Possessed. And Possessed is what it likes to do is not get hit by mortal wounds and tag things and have that matter. Forcing desperate escapes is already huge because if nothing else, you force another battle shock test on the thing that you that is falling back from you. But being able to wipe out swathes of models as they flee is a huge deal for Possessed. Anything that lowers the model count in front of you is massive for a Possessed army.
Yep, I agree. I think
I really
way
do too.
higher of this detachment than I did before, and I mean, Dara loves Possessed Slaughter right? Josie also part of the oil cult.
I do, yeah.
Uh, it's nice to see it getting a little bit of love. Will it be one of the more competitive ways to play the army? Probably not still. There's a lot of flaws just with 8-bound fundamentally that Possessed Slaughter does not fix. The last thing we need is more through the roof damage. We need that durability. We need that speed. Possessed Slaughter lacks both of those, unfortunately, which will ultimately be what holds it back. And in addition, where you have to cross 15, 17 inches of no man's land with, between two terrain pieces, right? So, but like I said, I could very easily see somebody going positive with this regularly, winning an event. I'd be shocked, but I'm
But it's
welcome to being
playable.
shocked.
It
It is
being
playable.
playable is nice. Previously, all through 10th edition, I've looked at Possessed, and Possessed has always been one of those sort of very meta dependent options. If the conditions are right, you can take a Possessed list and do quite well through 10th edition. It's never been great, but it's always been quite well. I think the conditions required to make Possessed and Vessels work are a lot broader. I think you're still going to take it in response to things that are going on in the game, but you can take it to counter a lot more stuff, and the things that kill it are slightly fewer, which is good.
Yep.
It's playable.
All right, Josie, you want to take us away with the last cult detachment?
Yeah, so this is Cult with Vessels. I think this is going to end up in Explain Yourself because I think you're only taking Vessels if you are building a very odd skew list. We already talked with the Terminators list how Cult kind of has a game plan. It knows what it wants to do. And what you kind of want to do with Cult and Vessels is lean a lot into Demon Princes. And Demon Princes are good for Cult. They buff the Jackals, but they buff them in an aura, and you kind of hit that point of diminishing returns after two, really. Your third Demon Prince gets less value than all the rest of them. And once you start taking more than three, you're looking at the Winged Princes, who are okay at best.
Aggressively okay.
Aggressively, even in Vessels. I mean, Demon Princes in general, you make them AP3 in Vessels, that turns them into a real combat threat, absolutely. But AP3 Winged Princes are still nowhere near as good as just getting dev wounds on the charge on the Footprints, as well as everything else the Footprints does for an army.
You do have one Mr. Slaughter. I really love the 20-man Jackal squad being led by a Slaughterbound.
Yeah, that unit hits hard. That unit absolutely slaps. And giving him more buffs from Vessels is genuinely very good. But outside of him, there's very little synergy outside of more princes. You can make lists because you've got spare points. You can make lists that lean into I'm going to take berserkers with characters. I'm going to take solo characters and a rhino and have some fun with it. But I don't think
Again,
at any point it even fits into a fun list.
at that point, you're fighting the main game plan completely. Right now, I would say that you could just say, I'm going to take vessels in my old cult list, and you don't have to change your list writing at all. I think maybe it does it better than the other two cults if that's like your game plan out the gate, but you can almost certainly get something more from the other detachments if you were to dig into it. I don't think there's much more you can get from this other than saying, yeah, the two demon princes and the slaughterbound have extra AP and that's it, right?
Yeah, and Colts already has as far as they're both playing priority assets as well, which is something we haven't mentioned yet. It's that same non-bow issue of having two detachments that already play the same disposition. You don't need to take vessels to change anything it does. So that aspect of it is also just missing from a list.
Yep.
I would put
I
the Switch
agree.
play in yourself. I think if you're taking vessels, you're either doing it as a complete meme, which go for it. Play your meme list, have fun. I love doing that. There's no arguments against anybody doing that. But know that it's not a competitive option.
Sure. I will not fight you on a blood cult opinion.
I will put it below, above. I will put it above Possessed and Terminators though, because that is genuinely working against your army. Vessel doesn't work against you; it just doesn't do a single damn thing for you.
All right, welcome to the most contentious part of this tier list, where I think Josie and I might pull knives out. To the last attachment combo we have in my personal favorite, and what I'm looking forward to in 11th edition, is Khorne Demonkin plus Brazen Engines. I think very highly of this attachment combo. It is where my main interest is. For those of you who have paid attention to my journey through Warhammer at all, they know that I am a Khorne Demonkin lover. I actually got into 40K playing Khorne Demons and not War Leaders, and then I saw Angron's model get revealed, and I was like, I want that. And now they're giving me a way that I can play Khorne Demons and feel good about playing World Leaders side by side, my two favorite archetypes slapped together. And now it finally, I would say, makes sense to play at a competitive level. Not only do I think this detachment is good, I do think it is a contender for Khorne's finest. I will not put it up there today because I think it is more theoretical than any of the other combos on here. There definitely has a lot of testing to be done. So, KDK plus Brazen Engines. What does it offer you? A, Purge the Foe. Sick. Right out the
Yep.
gate, already ahead of a lot of the options on here, right? If you have Purge, you're already getting ranked above some of the options that are not Purged before I know what you do, right? And Khorne Demonkin had a few problems with it, right? It is still a very clunky detachment. And frankly, most of the detachments in our book are clunky. They got a lot of just like why like just you're like a couple commas and extra sentences off of just being perfectly fine, right? Demonkin desperately wants to be a reliable combined arms army, right? It actually is probably the best combined arms archetype that we have access to. Why? Bloodletter spawning is still probably the best stratagem we have in our codex.
Yes.
Even though it got nerfed, it is still probably the best strat we have. Being able to just go, yeah, that thing's dead and it's been replaced by something and I'm going to charge you is so messed up that your opponent can't possibly play around it. It is also a form of sticky on death if you want to think about it. The ability for your opponent to like wheel a gun platform up, get within 15 of a chaos spawn, blow it off the table, and you're like, oh, I lost my hidden JK. Here's a Bloodletter squad that has hidden that just gets to replace it is really obnoxious to deal with, right? And will be a good way for you to score points. You'll one big factor of 11th edition, which I'm putting a lot of stock in, is your ability to play from reserves, play deep strike. You want to be able to rapid ingress, and you really want to be able to threaten your opponent with strong rapid ingress and weak rapid ingress, right? You want to be able to rapid to flip a point. You also want to be rapiding to hit them in the head with a chair. Demonkin, obviously, demons all have deep strike, and that ranges from 10 bloodletters to Scarbrand to 6 juggernauts being led by a juggernaut lord, which is way better, in my opinion, because you can give them all an invul and minus one to hit. They're obnoxiously durable, right? Playing from reserves is very strong, and Demonkin is the best attachment for that. In fact, I would argue Rapid Ingress is now the strongest stratagem in 10th edition, or 11th edition, sorry. Like, that is where you want to be playing. And even if you were to ask me on a tactics video, which is coming for Berserker Warband, that is going to be where I'd be angling you to be playing from reserves. So, not only do we get to play from reserves really well with our demons, but what Brazen Engines actually adds are Defilers. I think this is the biggest argument we have for the Daka Defiler, which is the double autocannon Defiler with ignore mods, so that it's still hitting on fours, which now is just as good as all the other Defilers hitting on fours, right? 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 Not really, no. It's not going to be better than the other Defilers, but it does make it feel better.
Yes.
And it is way more consistent of a gun platform than the Forge Fiend was at actually reliably killing something and then replacing with Bloodletters. So that strategy alone got miles better, right? And that makes Khorne Demonkin insanely strong, being able to generate Blood Tithe from across the table and being able to just drop Bloodletters anywhere that needs to. and playing from reserves, all of which I highly value. I think Purge the Foe is exactly where this wants to be playing. I think that it can get up in your opponent's face fast, fast with fast moving defilers, walking up, shooting something, dropping bloodletters, and charging. That is going to be a staple. You'll be able to play from reserves with Scarbrand or the Juggernaut Lord Brick, dropping and ingressing and charging, right? All of these things are just objectively powerful and strong and work really well with each other. Do you want to bring Mauler Fiends? Maybe, maybe not. You don't have to. I'm more excited for the fact that I think this is the best way to play Defilers and World Leaders. I think this is the Defiler detachment and Defiler combo if you're going to be doing it. I would be running two with double autocannons, and I would probably have a Demon Prince behind them, just hyping them up the whole time. Now that he has something to do with the Possessed Blade, Punch of Bloodletters, Scarbrand, maybe more. Right? It has the best trash package. Altogether, you can tell that I'm super excited. This is probably how I'm going to be playing World Leaders out the gate for 11th edition. Do I think it's better than Warband? Probably not. I would be shocked. I hope it is. I will try it. There are some fundamentals of 11th edition where I think being combined arms is so good, and being able to participate in both phases will keep your opponent honest. And that will allow you to then strengthen your rapid ingress plan, right? If your opponent can't stand in a shooting lane because they're scared of a defiler shooting them, that means you get to rapid Scarbrand in their face and not get shot at. And now you're charging them with Scarbrand, which will spawn bloodletters, and then it just feeds itself in an infinite cycle. And I think very highly of this combo. I would probably put it ahead of top option, but Josie might come through the monitor at me. So I'm willing to concede that it is bottom of top option because at least at a minimum, Goretrack is tried and tested and a strategy that we know that works, and KDK Engines is completely experimental, and in a future date, I would probably fight harder for this, but I am broadly very excited for this detachment combo. It is my favorite out the gate, and while KDK may be clunky, its main game plan does not rely on Blood Tithe at all. And I'll say, from a couple of the games that I've tested, out the gate, being like into a Thousand Suns player, like hopping out and going defiler, shoot, my whole army has a 5-up feel no pain into you, give them the finger, and it's so like it's such a tiltingly fun thing to do to people. Um, just have army-wide 5-up feel no pain immortals and psychic. Psychic is very strong now. You're going to see it all over the place. But
Yes.
um, I think very highly of this detachment combo. I will certainly be taking this to multiple GTs.
Yeah, I completely I agree with the placement, and I agree that in a few months' time, it very well might that both of the top options easily could slip into Khorne's finest by the time the dust has settled on the open of this edition. And I can if KDK plus engines meets its potential, and I think we can both see the potential in a big way. If it lives up to that, it's gonna unseat Berserker Warband, I would say. Combined Arms, I agree, is probably going to be the way to play 11th edition. You need to participate in shooting and combat unless you are a very, very hyper-specific shooting army. But I don't think pure melee works. Full stop. For almost anybody, if you are not obscenely fast melee. And
I do
we're not
agree.
that.
And we do have an 11th edition first impressions video coming out. It may already be out. Not really sure on the order that's going to come out. We're going to kind of go over the fundamentals that'll help you with list writing and where you should be looking at. I would encourage everybody to please consider supporting us on our Patreon. We actually have a lot of workshops that we've been doing in there recently, just kind of first impressions and stuff. Like I said, content's been a little slow lately. It's because we've been waiting for the full picture before we start giving educated opinions. Last thing you need is baseless conjectures from us. But we figured we'd start off 11th edition with one nice clickbait tier list. So thank you for everybody that sticking around. Please, 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 please be active in the Discord and communicating your list ideas. This is a brand new time for all of us. There may be things that we're missing. We may be completely wrong on some of these combos. Like I said, this is just our initial gut check takes. If you are a possessed Terminator fan out there, prove us wrong. Godspeed.
Yeah.
I hope you roll your invulns, because that's what you're going to need.
Absolutely. Best of wishes to you. I think though one thing that's really exciting about this, this is probably the first time we've done a tier list like this, where actually every one of the codex detachments has something exciting, something playable, something that you can make work. No matter what detachment you like, you can build a list now that can genuinely compete at almost any size event. You're maybe not going to win events with some of the worst detachments, but you can build lists that are genuinely very competitively good, which is not a position we've been in before. And I think it's a real little
Yeah.
cause for praise for GW for how they've done these 1 point detachments. They've breathed a lot of life into our codex.
Yeah, and the best way I could put it is if you were to just tell me, if Josie were to tell me, hey, did you see that World Leaders won a GT this week? And I'd be like, oh, it's Warband, right? And then Josie would be like, no, it's actually KDK engines or Gore Vessel. I'd be like, oh, that's nice. But if you pulled off of this could work, congrats. You just speed ran your way to being on Skull Takers with us, and we would love to hear your thoughts. And honestly, all of the this could work armies, like I could see them winning 1 to 2 GTs in this first year of the edition. I just expect play this for fun and explain yourself. Like if you just want to go to an RTT, play with your favorite models, like that kind of stuff. I mean, feel free to prove us wrong, guys. That's what we're here for. Um, but yes, I'm very excited that Warband now has, in my opinion, competitors.
Yes.
Like it actually has to like be competitive in its list writing. And we'll have to see how 11th actually shakes out because like the combined arms thing I feel like is going to be a big deal. And mono melee warband is going to be probably we always said that mono melee was one of the hardest ways to play Warhammer. It is the hardest way to play Warhammer now. It is just without a doubt the hardest way to play Warhammer, and it will be even more brutal. So Warband is sitting there shaking because its throne is I think close to being unseated.
Yeah,
But
which is great. It's great. We're finally meeting some fresh variety going into the new edition.
yep, which is nice. And I think that this attachment system was the best way to do internal balance, right? For a lot of armies that had clear Ultramarine style, like we're gonna play Blades of Ultramar, Coterie the Conceited, like you'd all that would be exclusively how you saw those armies getting played. There is now more reason than ever to see alternative ways. Now, will this introduce problematic combos to the game? Probably. There's probably some stuff out there that should be 3DP that is 2DP that just got some toxic combo added to it. But you know what? That's how all edition drops go. Some things will just not work out the gate. Some things will work fantastic out the gate. So,
Yeah, and the things that don't work, they will get changed. At the end of the day, like the detachment point costs are going to be in the MFM, the Munithorium Field Manual, for good reason, and that is because everything in there is always subject to change. If you don't like the cost of a detachment and it's gonna come out the gate being way too strong, guess what? GW are probably gonna make it 3 at some point. That's just what's gonna happen if it's too good.
yep, 100% agree. All right, Josie, we can go ahead and close this one out. Thank you everybody for tuning in. Like I said, leave a comment, like, subscribe, do all that stuff. Check us out on Patreon. Make sure you check us out on our Discord, please. Like I said, a lot of conversations going on in there based off of these detachment combos. Um, thank you for tuning in. Josie, any last comments?
I think this is going to be a really exciting time. 3 months time, I'm looking forward to coming back to this and seeing how wrong we were because we're going to have been wrong about a lot of it. But I'm looking forward to being proven wrong.
Yep, absolutely. All right, take us out, Josie.
Yep. Thank you everyone for coming along. Remember, stay safe, stay healthy, and kill, maim, burn.